Hey, I'm back. This is Chandler for Melder Production, and today I thought I'd do a breakdown of Springtime in Yokohama. Previously, I showed how to create like various jazz things, like how to create jazz drums in MDrummer, or how to create an acoustic bass in MSoundfactory. And today I'm going to be using these to create this track. And so if you haven't checked it out, check it out. I'll try to put a card up there so you can listen to it. But I'll show you exactly how I did it. So the first thing I have here is MDrummer. So I just basically did what I showed you in the previous video for making the like jazz loops. It sounds like this. Yeah, so there we go. It's basically the same pattern I made before. Maybe I can even see it here. Basic jazz. So in the previous video, I showed you how I made that to create, a nice jazz sound you can use for that. And that's basically all I did. I think maybe I think I showed you how to make the custom breaks to use that in there. And I think they sound pretty good for this jazz piece. So that's there. Other thing I used was the EQ here, Turbo EQ. I really like this. Really nice for like fast changes. I didn't really do too much. I believe here at 300 hertz, I brought it down 3 decibels here, 3 decibels at 1,000. I'll turn it on and off so you can hear it. I really didn't do too much with that. It's just, I think there's some boxiness I kind of wanted to get out, especially to get rid of some of the sound so I can have more of the organ poke through, I think. I believe that was the reason. I forget. And then I used MAnalyzer. I love this plugin. This is great. I should really do a video on this. This is one of my favorite ones. What it'll do, it'll show you the spectrum of all your different instruments. So like here I have the drum set, but I also have one on the bass, the organ, and the guitar. And they'll really let you like see what's in the other way and really EQ it. Although I should say in here, since this is more of a jazz piece, I tried not to use too much EQ. So this can be really useful. The next one I'll show you is the bass. So this is just the acoustic bass program I showed you before. I use like physical modeling. Let me see. I'll see if I can put a card up there for this, but that's basically everything that's inside. I'm not sure if this has actually been included for everybody else in MSoundfactory, but I did make it, and I'm sure I sent it, so it should be there sometime in the future, and hopefully the GUI will look better than this. But these are the basic settings for it. I just use a little bit of reverb there, so there's really not too much on there. One thing, when I first did it, I was like, this doesn't really sound good. Like, what's wrong? And then I realized, I was like, it's just way too loud. So for this, I had to turn the volume way down so it would kind of blend in. But I'll let you hear it. Yeah, just typical walking bass. That's all I did for this. The other one, now this is where it gets really interesting. So for this one, the organ, it's not actually an organ. What I'm using is MGuitarArchitect, which is still in beta, but hopefully will come out sometime in the future. And what I have is the KC Special Amp. I love this amp. It's really good. You should be able to find it in an M Turbo amp. It should be in there. And then I used a compressor, just M Turbo comp. I used the 1176 here. And I wanted to really get rid of the transients for this because an organ, it doesn't have like a harsh spike, at least not usually. Or maybe it does, I don't know. And then I use the rotary. So let me just play it here by itself so you can hear it. Now let's try it off. You can hear that sounds really different. And so this really makes a big difference. I had the amp like set kind of dirty so you get like distorted sound, but when you click the rotary on, I think it sounds like a really good organ actually. To me, that sounds great. It's exactly what I wanted. I have another EQ here. I forgot exactly. Yeah, here I boosted some of the upper mids. I think that was in contrast to the drums where I cut these out. And then here at 1,500 hertz, I dropped this down because I don't want this to get in the way of the lead guitar here. So I'll turn this on and off so you can hear it. And also I use the high pass filter here just because I don't want this to get in the way of the bass. I just want to cut off all that low end so to fit in nicely. I hope it sounds good. After that, I use the stereo spread, and I wanted this a little bit less wide. Like in MGuitarArchitect, the actual plugin itself, the rotary speaker simulator, has stereo and mono, but I was like, it's a little bit too wide, especially for like if you want to sound like old vintage jazz, like it couldn't get that wide. So I just narrowed it a little bit. That's all I'm doing here. Nothing fancy. And then I have another multi-analyzer here. But now the big thing is here, the lead guitar. So I'm in MGuitarArchitect. I have the tuner, which I used before. I'm using the KC Special again. I made this. I really like this. I don't know. It sounds good to me. And then I'm using this Concordia small cabinet. And so I'll play it, and it sounds like this. What I'm doing here is I have M Turbo EQ. Now this one I'm doing like actually quite a lot. I'm boosting a lot of the low mids and I'm cutting the upper mids. And I also, like at 5K, I moved that up just so it cut more. I want it to really stand out. But the big thing here is the boost in the low mids and the cut in the upper mids. I wanted this to sound like more of a vintage arch top. I don't have anything like that. I'm just using my normal super strat style guitar, but I wanted to get more fat, so that's what I did. I'll do it before and after. Yeah, so I just wanted a little bit of that fatness in the low end, and I didn't want it like quite so present in that like upper mids area. And then at the high end, I wanted to have a little bit of cut, so that's all I did. Next is M auto volume. It sounded a little bit like compression on here, but it's actually M auto volume. I just did this because there's some times, especially when it gets faster, where it's hard to hear the playing, and I was like, oh, you really want it in here to kind of like even things out. So. So sometimes I think, it's a little bit too much, but other times I'm like, it's kind of okay for the solo. Let me play this. So there, like I'm sometimes playing a little bit louder, sometimes a little bit softer, but hopefully you can still hear everything. Then after that, all I did was put a little bit of reverb on everything. Let's see if I can play it with it on and off. You can hear it just kind of gave everything some space. Before with it off, it sounds like everything's kind of like on top of each other, and this just kind of pushes the wall back and gets them right off your ear, I think. I used M Turbo Reverb for this. I used the Studio preset because it's on a send. I used it 100% wet, but these are the settings. I don't think there's anything particularly crazy or anything. I'm not sure if I changed much at all for this. So it's very basic, but it sounds good to me. And then lastly, I'm going into M Turbo Comp. I probably use this too much for a jazz song, but I'm just using maybe like 2 to 3 decibels. And it's basically for like the drums, the drum fills, sometimes they get loud and it pushes it down. So as you can see, like I think the maximum is like about 4 decibels or so, which is could be too much depending on who you talk to. But I just wanted to tame some of those louder parts to kind of, get it in there and make it a little bit more squashed. And I didn't want those dynamics sticking out too much. And then I exported all this and I put it through again. I tried to normalize everything, put a little bit of a limiter, but I was a little bit more careful with this because, as I said, I don't want to like squash the dynamics. So I didn't push this up like it was, like 2000s death metal or anything like that. Just maybe every once in a while reducing it by, a decibel or so on a really loud part. But I hope you like this song and I hope this gave you some ideas. I showed a little bit of MGuitarArchitect, which is still in beta, but hopefully it will be, released to everybody in the future. Actually, I need to make some presets for it, but hopefully you enjoyed this. If you have any questions about it, leave them down below. Check out all the other plugins at meltaproduction.com. And until next time, see you.